Hey, Rocky Fork, thanks for joining us today. We hope you'll stay connected with us by downloading our app and following along all the events we have going on.
Oh, yeah, talking about, volunteering. And I'm usually the one in the back. I'm the one that all your kids think, I'm crazy, right? And Mackenzie came up to me today and said, it's my birthday, so I'm going to miss that. But they're going to honor her back there, probably embarrass her, I don't know. Oh, it's an honor and it's a privilege and it's also a humbling experience to be up here on stage. But as Jonathan said, my wife and myself, we like to be active. We like to be active here at church. And I like what you said about family, and think of your church as a family. And, families, you kind of come together and you serve together. We've been here for about 10 years. I kind of lose track of time. And during that 10 years, we've seen a lot of change. We were in the school, the middle school, for the longest time. They call that the church in the box. How many people remember the church in the box? Okay, there's several of us. And you talk about an experience. I always wanted to have a camera that just kind of recorded in one spot and see and fast motion, see all the ants going here and there and everywhere, just to get everything unloaded, get everything ready. Kids' church, my wife and myself and many others. On those Sundays, I'd have 16,000 steps or more. So it was good for me. And I haven't been doing that lately, and I need to do that. So, Teresa and I, we also serve. It's not all about me, but we serve on the missions team, which we are so thankful. And, and you're going to be hearing more and more, in the future about how this church is not just Hallsville, Missouri, not just in this region, but we reach out throughout the world. In fact, as Teresa and I, we had a phone call yesterday, technology is wonderful, to a family in Mongolia that we support. And it was just so good, and they're going to be moving to China this summer. So Teresa and I, we were able to visit them last year. It was a long flight, but it was so neat, and I'm already planning China 2025, okay? Something else that if you want to get your phones out and calendars, June 7th, and July 7th will be our swim parties this year. How many of you have been to a swim party? One of Rocky Fork Fellowship's swim parties. Okay, you need to be there. And you might say, well, I don't want to have anyone see me in a bathing suit. You don't have to swim. There's all sorts of food. There's all sorts of fellowship. The first one's going to be a Hawaiian theme. Okay, so if you get your Hawaiian shirts out. I have 10 at home if you need to borrow one. I'm just saying. My wife wants to get rid of some of them. I said no. And the second one is July 7th, and you can kind of see the theme there. It's going to be red, white, and blue. So the snow cones are going to be red, white, and blue. We're going to have a lot of fun, so be there. June 7th, July 7th. We'll have cards in the back, too, for the kids. I've already mentioned Kids Church. Here's something that is encouraging me every Sunday that I'm back there. As a kids' church, they are sponsoring a child in Haiti. So cool. And we've talked about Kamalee, and you'll see a picture of Kamalee up here. Kamalee is a very, very sweet girl. And again, Teresa and I, we go to Haiti every year. And this girl is going to Sunlight Ministries somewhat as a result of the kids, your kids, if you have kids back there, their offerings. And so what we do is starting in the first year, we kind of collect some offerings. We get up to $540. That's what it is for a whole year. And then we kind of go to, challenging them to bring their Bibles, which is kind of important, and do some other fun things back in Kids Church. But Kamalee, a sweet girl, you'll be hearing more about her in years to come. Again, speaking of Mongolia, this is going to be a global event today. So, the Welsons and several others of our friends that are serving in other parts of the world, they better be watching because I've threatened them, So they're going to watch, and I hope they give me some good criticism or, constructive comments. So thank you for watching. Also, there's all sorts of friends in the area. Friends that, I've served with, gone to church with, and everything else. And I just thank you also for watching because let's think of Rocky Fork Fellowship. This is a location of God's big church, right? And we're coming together here in fellowship, but we can't forget about all those that are fellowshipping at other churches around the world. I went ahead, I used your piano, I hope that's okay. But I'm going to just show these books early. As a resource, as a gift from the church, we're going to have some books that I'll be mentioning later, but these are all about stewardship and how you as a family, can kind of get deeper into stewardship and talk as a family about generosity. They're really thin books. I love thin books, okay? They're quick reads, very good reads, and then there's even a card on the table. It's going to be straight out there. Look for the biblical authority sign. And there's even a card because the treasure principle has, I think, a 4-series video series, if you don't want to read, if you just want to watch it, on Right Now Media. So, again, those are some things to really think about. Let's talk about stewardship. And I'm not apprehensive to talk about stewardship or generosity because, to me, it's part of worship. We have music, that's part of worship. We have speaking, preaching, that's part of worship. The communion that we just had is part of worship. Offering is part of worship. It all comes together because we do all this to honor God. Because why? We were created in the image of God. And God's generosity to us cannot be outdone. I heard an illustration once that, whatever we give back to God, God has a bigger shovel. He has a snow shovel throwing it back to us. Okay, just remember that. Since we are in His image, His desire is that we also be like Him and be generous. I like this. This generosity is just not what we do, but it's who we are. Pretty deep, huh? Generosity is not just what you do, but it's who you are. Christ followers, and whenever I go to Haiti and teach a week at the school, Bible, I always say Christ followers or followers of Christ. Being a Christian is, I'm not against that term, but being a Christ follower to me is just kind of more in tune. Who are you following? You're following Christ. Christ followers should steward their lives in a way that honors God, becoming more like Jesus and living a life that is reflective of the image of your Heavenly Father. Biblical stewardship and generosity transforms your heart. I've seen it many times. God will bless your faith. God will bless your trust when His children become generous people, when they become generous people. By God's design, His children are to be conduits of generosity to others. Just don't keep it for yourself. You need to do this by pouring yourself into others and advancing the kingdom. Think about it. God gives us this great privilege to live open-handedly, to give, and to reach out to others and show His great generosity. That's quite the great gift. Now, to tee us off into this sermon, I've got a key Bible passage, but I want to talk about a book that I go to often, and it's written by Nick Nowry, and it's called The Stewardship of Life. The Stewardship of Life. And someone in this auditorium is borrowing it right now, which is great. I'd show it to you. And I'm pointing to you, James. And so he's going to read it this week because he's been shamed into it, okay? But there's 7 ways to steward your life. And they are vision, influence, commitment, time, opportunity, resources, and you. Let me just say a few facts on each one. Vision. Vision is vital to effective leadership. A person can't be successful in leading in life or with their own life without vision. It enables us to see opportunities, which I'll mention later, opportunities and also objectives. What are your objectives in life? God-given vision finds its fulfillment in purposeful action. Vision must also motivate and encourage others to keep pressing towards the goal. You've heard it said too, if you have nothing to aim for, like archery, then you're never going to really reach your goal. You want to go into that goal. When the goal is clearly seen, life's race is run with great passion. And I think we all want passion. Now, I'm thankful for our leadership team here. We are very blessed. We have 6 men that have stepped up. I don't think I'd ever be worthy to be an elder. It's an awesome task, and it's a heavy burden at times. And we should be thankful. But these leaders, along with, I think, about another 30-some, came together this past fall, I think, or early spring. I lose track of time. And they came up with our vision and our mission and our values, which this, folks, is our target. That's our target. And today, I'm talking about sacrificial generosity. That's the main thing I'm talking about. But you're going to see I'm going to touch base on several others. Influence. We all have influence. If you're a parent in here, it doesn't matter if you have a child in kids' church or if your children now are 40. You have influence on them. Now, when they turn 18, it seems like you have less influence, right? Unfortunately, but 18 to 22, sometimes we call that the stupid years. Come on, we all lived it, right? But you still have influence. And some of us have influence on our parents. Some of us have that influence on maybe our grandparents, our friends, our neighbors, coworkers. So influence is so important, and we need to remember that. And remember what Mom always told us, honesty is the best policy. And we're going to be talking about Mother's Day next week. Commitment. Commitment is the other way in your life that you could steward, and it's a devotion to really what matters. A lot of us sometimes are committed to things that we really don't need to commit to, but, you need to have a devotion to what really matters. It's a spiritual fidelity. That means you remain faithful to it, that constantly reminds you of the promises you need to keep and the purposes that you need to fulfill. The inner fire of commitment, you got to keep it burning, don't you? If you don't keep it burning, and sometimes that's through service, then the flame can go out. Okay, the next way to steward your life effectively is through time. Ooh, that's literally a four-letter word, isn't it? Time. And I'm just like you. I misuse my time a lot. We only have a limited number of days. I just use the age of 80. That's kind of an average age that some of us live to. Some of us go way beyond that. My grandfather lived 102, and unfortunately some go on to eternity much less. But at age 80, that's 29,000 days. You've heard passages, you've heard things saying, number your days. If you take out sleep, and the average was like 8 hours a night. I know people that get by on 5 hours a night. I think that's crazy. And then there's people like me that sometimes I have to go and sleep for 14 hours for a day, kind of, just to recoup my energy. Then you have less than 20,000 days. So calculate it. It depends on your age. You're going to say, not to make you feel down today, but you might say, I have another 15,000 days, or I have another 10,000 days. Let's make the most of it. Opportunity. If you think about it, opportunity, the value up there, really goes towards making disciples, doesn't it? Right over here, we see, we've seen kids. I even had a young kid, well, I call them young kids in Trek time, that said, I'm really thinking about being baptized. Ooh, I love it. You know what I'm saying? When those kids come forward at that young age and say, I think I really know what it means, and I want to be baptized. That's what we do here. So baptism, there's a period of time, opportunity that you have, time that you have, commitment, influence that you have to get that person, sometimes we say, into the water. There's nothing magical about the water. But again, it's doing what Jesus wanted us to do and what Jesus did. Go under the water, and we explain this to our young kids. You're going under the water, and it's like you're dying to yourself, and we always make sure the kids don't freak out. Wait! But you come back new and excited, having the Holy Spirit with you to help in life. Now, the sad thing is, once a person comes out of the water, they become a new Christian, a follower of Christ, then that we don't invest time in them. We don't use those opportunities or influence. And it's not just the leadership, it's not the ministry staff, but we need to carry that forward. Sometimes that's when the devil really wants to go after that new Christian, so keep that in mind. But time teaches us in Ecclesiastes that there's a time for everything and a season under every activity, okay, for heaven. Time is like every other gift that God has given to us, but it must be stewarded with wisdom, and we shouldn't waste any of it. Now, we're still going to waste time. We're humans, right? But we need to get better and better and better and try to focus our time, which I already talked about. So we're on opportunity, aren't we? But that's a good point, right? Time. We are blessed with a lot of opportunities. And again, you'll see those opportunities. It might be at work. It might be just out and about. It might be with your own family. And so we need to faithfully steward those with eagerness and readiness. Two things. You need to be ready for them, and you need to be eager to look for them. We need to make the most of every opportunity. Now, I sometimes call this kind of my it slide. I'll usually say you need to, this is not my it slide. I am so sorry. I'm getting out of my, okay. But you need to evangelize, empathize, and energize. We need to reach out to others for the gospel. We need to identify with others and know what they think and what they feel, because we're all different. They're coming from a perspective new to learning about Jesus. And we need to energize. We need to eagerly show others how to live. And again, not in a judgmental format, but in a way to say, hey, this life is good. It's good. So resources, most Christians, when they hear the word stewardship, they think of, oh, you want my money. Okay. But you're seeing already that the stewardship of life is more than just money. Okay. That's just one of the areas. Jesus taught many parables, and the apostles wrote about this extensively in the New Testament. And God inspired this because he knew that his creation, us, humankind, would have a problem with possessions, with things, with money. And he loves us dearly. And so there's all sorts of passages and all sorts of resources to say, hey, how do you really use your resources? All of our monetary and our material resources should be used for his glory. And that's where we're getting at. Wow. God gave you the opportunity to steward yourself. I mean, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? He did not create us, Adam and Eve, up to this point, he did not create us to be puppets. He could have created two puppets, Adam and Eve, and they could have done everything right and everything that God told them to do. But we have that freedom, but he wants us to honor those actions. He wants us to honor and allow us to make those decisions, but make right decisions. This is an extraordinary privilege that we have, unlike any other thing that God has created. So that kind of gets us into our key verse, our verses today. And I go to this a lot, and it's 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19. And you're going to see it up on the screen. And it goes like this. This is NIV, the version. Instruct those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Instruct them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Now, there's all sorts of versions of the Bible. And some, I would say, don't go that direction because they really are taking it out of context. And some, hey, this is a new way to look at that same verse in a different format. So in the New Century Version, again, if you're looking at versions and you're saying, it's hard to read the Bible, try to check this one out because I like some of the differences in that same passage they used. Command those who are rich with things of this world, things, not to be proud. Ooh, you got being humble over here and proud over here. And a lot of times, this is where I might be, and that really hurts our lives. God richly gives us everything to enjoy. Be generous and ready to share. And I like this, saving a treasure for the future. Now, the Message, this is going to be the next version, and it's a paraphrase. Eugene Patterson put this together back, I guess, in the early 2000s, and he wrote it kind of to a new Christian, to maybe a 12-year-old, and he's using his own language here, okay? But I like what he said. It says, tell those who are rich in this world's wealth to quit being so full of themselves. Oh, that gets me here, doesn't it? And so obsessed with money, which is here today and gone tomorrow. Tell them to go after God. I love this. Who piles on all the riches we could ever manage. to do good, to be rich in helping others, and to be extravagantly generous. Whew. That's a big word. I had to say that a few times because I didn't want to mess that up here up on stage. So the passage, we'll be going back to the NIV version, but the passage has 3 points that I want to really cover this morning. And the first one is to trust God and not wealth. And the basic premise is we are not owners. We are stewards. And sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll say, oh, you want to come over to my house? Let's take my car. Hey, look at my investments. I hate to say it, it's not yours. You're borrowing it. You're stewarding it while you're here. Everything is God's. If we have wealth, it is by the goodness of God and not because of any special ability on our part. Again, I'm not trying to put you down here, but God has given you abilities to do certain things, but we need to honor Him. You know, the possessing of material wealth ought to humble a person and cause him to glorify God and not themselves. Deuteronomy 8:18, this is early in the Bible, the first 5 books of the Bible. Deuteronomy 8:18 even says, but remember the Lord of your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. Way back in one of the first 5 books of the Bible, it's Him that He gives you the ability to produce wealth. If wealth makes a person proud, then he doesn't understand himself or his wealth. You know, the Bible tells us in several passages that you could be rich in this present age or this world. You know, that's what we're thinking about, where you would live, but to be poor in the next. Ooh, that'll get you up at night thinking, oh, I want to have riches now, but what about the riches in eternity? It is better for us to be poor in this world and to be rich for eternity, because using what we have to honor God is a blessing to yourself, really, but to others. Jesus spoke about treasure, because remember, treasure and money and giving, all that was really mentioned more in the New Testament than even the word love, believe it or not. I have the exact numbers, but I can't remember what they are now, but it's like almost 5 to 1. So in Matthew 6:19 through 21 and verse 24, it says, don't hoard treasure down here where it gets eaten by moths and corroded by rust, or worse, stolen by burglars. You can see this is a little different. I'm using the Message version here just so we can kind of see it in our own hearts. Stockpile treasure in heaven where it's safe from moth and rust and burglars. It's obvious, isn't it? The place where your treasure is the place you will most want to be and end up being. You can't worship 2 gods at once. Loving one God, you'll end up hating the other. Adoration of one feeds contempt for the other. You can't worship both God and money. It's plain. Now, you know, some of us that are a little bit older, you know, we're passing the communion, we're going to be passing an offering basket, but we used to sing out of these books, some of you young people, called hymnals. And there was a song in it that said this: This world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. And so the person who wrote that song, this is really what it was based on, this very passage. Our ultimate citizenship is in heaven, and that's where our treasure should be as well. As we move back to our main Bible text this morning, the commandment is to those who are rich. So who here is rich? Well, the answer is all of us. So 82 of Americans are in the top 10% of the richest people in the world. You just don't think of that. You think, well, wait a minute. I'm kind of making it by maybe each month. I don't really have much of a savings. But sometimes I'll ask the question, do you have a refrigerator? You think, well, yeah. Do you have reliable electricity? Well, yeah. What about clean water? 82 or 85% of the world doesn't have that. Surprising, isn't it? Go on a mission trip and you will see that. Right, Brad? I'm picking on Brad here. He's been to Haiti. And I tell you, it's a totally different life over there. Now, I found in a nonprofit article which calculated if the top 1%, richest people in the world, if they gave 10%, it would completely wipe out extreme poverty. Oh, isn't that amazing? Probably none of us in here are on the top 1%, but just think, in a world, if the top 1% decided to give just 10% of their wealth that God has allowed them to use, extreme poverty would be eliminated. Let's hit it a little closer to home. How much is your monthly car or truck payment? How much does it compare to what you're giving back to God? I know Mark always used to step on feet every once in a while. Sometimes we have to have our foot stepped on. Just something to think about. And this is my challenge to you. How about trying to give 3%, 5%, or 10% over the next year? I guarantee you won't miss it. You will not miss it. Now, here's the plan, and we could all do this. And I kind of like numbers here. So for the next 3 months during the summer, calculate what you bring in a month, and just say, okay, 3% would be this. Write your checks before you come to church. Fact is, you could write them for the whole month and just drop them in the boxes. We'll have some other ways in which you could give, but just try that. We could all do that. I really think we could all do that. What about 5%? So after those 3 months are done, you're into the fall, maybe ratchet it up and say, let's figure out 5%. Again, I don't think you'll see much difference in your family structure. You're still going to eat. You're still going to pay the electric bill. You'll still do all these things. Then after 8 months, 3 plus 5, after 8 months, let's say next year, just give it a try. Say, let's just go ahead and let's try 10% for a while and see how that works. But regardless, as a family, if you make a decision saying, we're going to stick to 3% and we're going to do that for a while and we're going to see the blessings, we're going to stick to 5%, or we're just going to go ahead and jump into 10%. But I like the method of just slowly getting to it. Verse 17 stresses the importance of trusting God and not wealth. It says, don't be arrogant, nor put your hope in wealth, which is so uncertain. You need to put your hope in God. Now, none of us, I kind of calculated this in my head, none of us in here ever experienced the 1929 stock market crash. But there's stories of people just throwing themselves out of tall buildings because they put all their hope in wealth and they lost everything. And that's sad. And there's been several crashes and there's been several, I guess you could call it adjustments in the stock market since. And again, you hear stories of people just really losing it and sometimes losing their lives. But thieves can steal, investments can drop, and disasters could take away homes and cars. When God blesses us with wealth, and we see all sorts of examples of it in the Bible, Abraham and Joseph and many others, then that's what we should do. We see the examples. Jesus didn't want us just to allow wealth to give us a false sense of security. Now, I'm going to have them put up a slide here, and it's something you could read maybe on your own, but some of you in the back can't read it. But it's a father and a son, and they're in front of this storage unit, okay? And the storage unit, the father is basically, someday, son, this will all be yours. He's so proud of the storage unit. Now, a lot of comics have these thought bubbles. And so now the son is, he's the one standing like this, and that's his pickup in the foreground. You got to really read this comic. And in his thought bubble, he's thinking, how many trips to the landfill is this going to take me? So you know what? Don't trust things. They're going to go away someday. You can't take them with you. Trusting God and not wealth is something we need to do daily. When we do, it not only provides for us, but it provides for so many people and countless others around us. So the second point in this passage is enjoy what God has given you. Enjoy it. Yes, the word enjoy is in the Bible. Isn't that amazing? Have you ever seen that in the Bible? It's there. Sometimes people think, I'm not going to touch the Bible. It's a bunch of rules and it's a book of gloom. No, it is a book of love to you. In fact, enjoyment is a major theme in the book of Ecclesiastes. King Solomon wrote, if Solomon was here, he'd be the guy in the back in the robes, okay? They wore robes back then. But King Solomon would say, enjoy the blessings of life now because life will end someday. Now, this enjoyment of life is not sometimes what they call hedonism or just for pleasure only. It is enjoying all that God has given you, but for His glory. So what gifts do you enjoy? Don't take for granted your family, your friends, your job, your health, your church here. Don't take these things for granted. Your home. And these are all gifts that you could share with others. The greatest feeling that you'll have is when you have someone over to your house for a meal, or even go farther, have someone come over like a missionary and stay with you for a while. Wow. Especially if you have kids, that opens their eyes up to world missions. You know, when you share what you have, it produces more and more joy. It's just that simple. Colossians 3:2, set your affections on things above, not on earthly things. Set your affections on things above and not on earthly things. Now, I've had a 30-year ministry doing that. I count it a privilege to encourage generosity because I know by doing that, it advances the work of Jesus. There's people that don't know about Christ yet, and usually we think of world missions for that, but there's a lot of people here in the United States that don't know Jesus yet. There's also people that are just beginning their walk with the Lord. And so showing them a Christian example really helps them to see the big picture. So let's go on to the third point, and it is employing what God has given you. You know, 1 Timothy 18 and 19 guide us towards the principle of employing what God gives us. Generosity will enrich your lives spiritually as we make investments for the future. You know, God is the faithful supplier, and his plan is that we become his faithful steward. He gives us the privilege of enjoying them, but also managing them for his glory. So how should we manage our money? Well, this is that it slide I was telling you about before, and I've used this before. Give it, spend it, and save it. Okay? You want to give it, but give it cheerfully. You know, I know the Apostle Paul wrote about, you know, it's all about the heart. And I tell people this too. God could do more with a dollar bill from a willing heart than $1,000 from an unwilling heart. So have that cheerfulness in you. Spend it reasonably to meet your needs and to fill God-honoring desires, but also save it to extend its value, okay? So there's going to be needs in the future, and you just don't want to be one that has to depend on other people. You know, as we steward resources, little is much in God's hand. You know, we could go back to that story of the widow's mite, you know, the lady who just put 2 copper coins in, but Jesus really lifted her up and saying, she's given more than the others before her that were trying to do something flashy. We need to trust the multiplier. God wants us to rely upon him, to seek his will, and to pray for his blessings. You know, faith is foundational to effective stewardship. As we use wealth to do good for others, we might not get thanked today. And boy, this really resonates with me. You know that 10% of every dollar you give goes to help others throughout the world. And that's just amazing to me. So you might not ever see those people that come to Christ as a result of just a dime out of every dollar. But someday in heaven, they will be there to greet you. I mean, I'm getting chills right now. Sorry, I'm getting chills. So the famous explorer and missionary David Livingstone had this attitude towards possessions. In his journal, he wrote, I place no value on anything I have or possess except in relation to the kingdom of God. If anything will advance the interest of the kingdom, it shall be given away or kept. Only as by giving or keeping, it shall most promote the glory of him who I owe all my hopes in time and eternity. Wow. God desires this of all of his children. You know, the stewardship of resources is only here while you're alive. Remember, it stays behind. But its impact is eternal. We got to think of that. You know, as part of the body of Christ, and I loved, again, Mike, what you said, the family here, as this family group, we make a powerful, eternal impact. Because as we fellowship together, bring things together, we are able to influence lives here in this community, here in this state, in this nation, and the world. One more quote, and this is from that book I just really go back to, The Stewardship of Life. Kirk Nowry makes this statement. I want to be faithful and wise in managing all that God has entrusted to me, not because I think it will determine my eternal salvation, this is not health and wealth here, but because it is a gift that I could give to him who gave me life itself. Wow. That's a pretty powerful quote. May we have the same willing heart to practice sacrificial generosity. Now, next week is Mother's Day. Okay, so guys, now you could go buy your cards, order your flowers, chocolate-covered strawberries. Don't wait till the last minute. Okay, I've done that in the past. Okay, don't wait till the last minute. Now, I am going to be sharing about several godly women in the Bible who practiced sacrificial generosity in many ways. So I really want you to come back, and this is a good chance. Bring your mom with you, okay? If your mom is still alive and she lives close by, bring your mom. I really think she'll be blessed as well. Now we're getting ready for a different part of the service. We've had the offering passed to us. The communion. Now we get this great opportunity. Some of you kind of remember things like this. They're called baskets. Now, the thing I love about offering in a basket is this. It makes me think of several passages in the Bible where Jesus took small amounts of food, he broke it, and he fed 40,000 people, 50,000 people at a time. Now, this is what's really unique about it. Those baskets didn't come back empty. They came back full. So it met physical needs, and then also you will bring on spiritual and all sorts of really needs. So baskets, they say, what's in your wallet, right? I forget, is that Capital One or whatever? And I'll tell you the truth. Whenever I come to church, or I usually have, and this is it, folks, $5. Now, I do have credit cards, but that's all I got. So sometimes you might not be prepared through that. But again, this is a great time. This is a part of worship, folks. As I was growing up, this is a part of worship. We also have offering boxes, and you'll see them back there. I'll be honest, I didn't know we had 4 boxes. They just kind of passed my vision. But now there's a bright colored sticker on it so you can see it. So, just like an airplane, there's no runway lights. If you need to go do that. I had a lady tell me as I came in, she goes, I already put my offering in the box. I do that every time. Great, if that's the way you want to do it. We're in a technology era, right? So there's a QR code on the back of your chairs. You can give online. Pretty amazing, isn't it? And you can use your credit card. Now, I'll put a little statement in there. If you can't use a credit card effectively, do not do this. But if you use credit cards as a way of paying for things and then paying them off the same month or the next month, then that's a way to do it. Now, what my wife and I do, we do automatic bank transfers or checks. So simple, and every bank will do it. We travel a lot. We both serve back there a lot. We could forget to bring back our money, our gifts back to God. This way, we've set it up so twice a month a check comes into the church. Our missions that we send all throughout the world, I never have to put a postage stamp. It's saving me money. I'm giving, but it saves me money. Isn't that great? So think of that, and you'll never miss giving. Because we all travel, especially during the summer. So whatever you do, you'll give it cheerfully and know that it's doing more than just sitting there in a box or in a basket. It is changing the world